Welcome back to this solo playthrough of the Bismarck scenario from Atlantic Chase, and we will just jump right back into the action. So it is now the British turn, so we are going to roll for the weather, and the weather turns bad, so I think that's not a terrible result for us. And then we're going to be rolling on this table, but this time we're going to be rolling on this row because it is we have completed a convoy. The British have completed a convoy, so we're going to be rolling with slightly different potential results. So we get a 3. We still have one convoy in play that's dispersed, but we get an X result. So let me quickly check what that is. So that's an interception result, and the first thing that's going to start with is rolling on this table in order to decide who is going to attempt to intercept. So we're going to roll, and we get a 5, which is C, which is the nearest task force with a carrier. If the carrier is in airstrike range and the weather's good, so neither of those is true. So we're going to go to the nearest task force with a carrier. And in this case, the nearest task force with a carrier is going to be this one down here with the Ark Royal, the Renowned, and the Sheffield over here. So now we're going to start taking actions which are going to attempt to bring the Germans to battle. So we begin by placing a trajectory, turning that station into a trajectory. And we're going to move that trajectory over here to the German station. And now we are going to attempt an engage. But, oops, we have this unidentified task force in the hex. And so we have coordination going on. So, here's these markers. Thank you. Grab, okay. So this is the active task force. This is the coordinating task force. So we are going to be getting, for this roll, we are getting a +2 from the contact marker. Bismarck is medium. And in bad weather, we're going to be getting a +1. So this is going to be rolled at a +3. So we are going to be rolling on this 5 to 9 column, but with a +3. So that is an 11, which is a skirmish result. So if the British task force is faster than us, then it's going to lead to a limited battle. But I'm pretty sure that they are equal to us. So yeah, you can see over here, the Ark Royal is medium and Bismarck is medium. So that gives them a contact marker, which doesn't really matter because we already have one. And then the British are going to time lapse. So it is bad weather. So we are going to be removing only one trajectory segment for them, unfortunately. And then we are going to vie for initiative. So here we are vying for initiative, and the British maintain the initiative. Oh, sorry, the Germans get a +1 on the roll next time. So now we are going to roll again on this table here on the 1 row with a +1. And this time there's a C action. So the Germans are going to attempt to complete this second convoy. So again, we know we're just going to roll. This is C's initiative. The Germans have +1. And the Germans do, in fact, seize the initiative. So the British are going to time-lapse that task force. And they are going to basically turn that task force into a station in Gibraltar. But the initiative passes over to the Germans. So we will start by rolling for weather, which is a 4. So the weather does not change. It remains bad. And so now the Germans are going to head back to port. We've removed one of our rendezvous markers. So now, if we can get back to port, we start ending up in situations where the game can end. So we are going to turn this station into we're going to perform a trajectory action. Now we are going to get an intel marker because we are putting a trajectory down in a hex with an intel trigger. And then we're going to trying very hard to, or not trying very hard, avoiding British air bases. We are going to, okay, the thing that I was just checking is it does say that I can go back to a French port. I was checking if I had to, for some reason, go back to Brest, but I do not. So, and Brest well, I guess St. Nazaire is also within airstrike range, as is this X. So regardless, we're going to be in airstrike range here. But we are now going to time lapse. So we have an intel trigger, so we are intel limited. So the most we can remove is going to be 2 segments. We are rolling because it's bad weather, and so we are going to remove 2 segments. But the good news is that gets rid of both the intel and the contact marker. But because it's a time lapse, initiative does simply pass over to the British. Feels like we're into the home stretch here. So the British roll for weather. The weather remains bad. So we're going to come down here, and now we're rolling on this row, and we no longer have a +1 because, so 3, which is that X result again. We no longer have we do have a +1 because we do still have a dispersed convoy in play. But even so, a 4 result is still an X. So we are going to be rolling, we're going to be rolling over here on this X table, and we get a D result. This is a nearest task force with a cruiser and no battleship, BC, or CV. So I believe that is going to be this task force. So we have this task force with a CA in it and this task force with a CA in it, but this one is, I think, quite clearly closer. So again, he's going to take actions intended to bring the Bismarck to battle. This seems slightly suicidal, but actually, let me get these. I'm going to try to avoid German air bases, so we're going to target that right there. We don't want to target, well, because it's a solo bot, the British have to actually do this like the fewest number of hexes. And so I think that's going to be it, is my guess. I could check, but yeah, I think that's going to be it. So this is going to be the fewest number of hexes and has the advantage of sort of if we get an early or late result, I don't get an evasive maneuvers marker. So now they will do a naval search. So the British have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the Germans have 6. So we're on the 13 column, and there's no coordination or anything. So we are rolling there. So we get a shadow result. So they're going to reduce the Germans to 3 segments. So they will take away the 3 closest to success. And then the cruisers will perform a time lapse. Oof. They perform a time lapse down to that. And then we, because that action itself, then we are going to perform, that naval search is going to trigger a seize initiative. So we're going to roll for seize initiative, see if the German, actually, 1 second, ignore that roll. This is the exact moment where I am going to use Lutyens, and I'm going to simply seize the initiative as the Germans. This seems like the perfect place to do it. So I am going to do that. I am going to place as my action. Oh, hang on. Let me roll for the weather first. This is remember saying sometimes I get going too fast. So the weather doesn't change. and then we will be attempting to complete. So essentially, if as the Germans I can maintain the initiative here, I will have gotten the Bismarck back to port, and that will be the end of the scenario. So we will attempt to seize the initiative as the British couldn't possibly have failed more. So the Germans complete, bringing themselves back to Saint Nazaire. So this comes off the board. Or this really just comes off the board. So in essence, these are now completely out of the game. And with that, the scenario ends, because the scenario rules say that the scenario ends when 3 or fewer rendezvous markers remain. So we've only got 3 because we removed 1. And the Germans have no task forces in play, which they do not. It can also end as a result of other things, but it ends. So we then total up victory points. And so I've taken my victory points for these 2 battleships, which is what got me to 6. I reduced by 1 because they did complete a dispersed convoy. And for 9 hits on a convoy, so 7 plus hits on a convoy gives me 10 VPs. Oops. Plus 10. So I have 15 VPs, which is the gloating outcome. The Führer's voice on the radio is gleeful. I gave Britain many chances to negotiate, so many chances. So that is the end of this scenario. Now I have to say, that felt very fortunate. I feel like the Bismarck had tremendous fortune throughout. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to roll this back and play this scenario again. Because one of the things I really do love about this game is that depending on how few rolls here or there turn out, the outcome can be very different. The experience can be very different. So I'm going to actually just roll this back and start this scenario again and play this again, and we'll see what happens the second time.